For those that have been following my content fairly recently, you'd have heard me talk about the repeal Prop 209 amendment or whatever it is, or legislation in California where they seek to repeal civil rights legislation. It would specifically just strike the language from the California Constitution that says the state shall not discriminate based on, race, etc., blah, blah, blah. Now I can tell you why they want this to be. Some people have said it's because they want the right to discriminate against white people. Technically, yes, but that's only a portion. What they want is the right to discriminate, period. They want to hold certain racial groups back, prop certain racial groups up. And this is exemplified by how they treat Asian people. One of the reasons why I have serious concerns about it, for obvious reasons, is, I'm part Asian. And I've seen what they do at Harvard and universities when they get mad that my community, well, albeit I'm only partially Asian, is successful. They don't like it. They want to hold us back. And the Asian community and the mixed race community are the smallest minorities in the country. Now you can see exactly what they do in Seattle. This is the fruition, the next step in their plan, and it is just happening. So we need perhaps the federal government to come in and say, you can't do this. Will they? Apparently they won't. We'll see, though. Maybe if Trump wins, he will finally drop the hammer on all this stuff. Seattle held segregated training session on undoing whiteness, encouraged staffers to forfeit guaranteed physical safety. How is this happening in our country? I thought we were beyond all of this. I thought we won and the Civil Rights Act was law. Nope, they're undoing it. This is why we do constitutional amendments, right? Fox reports. The city of Seattle held a racially segregated employee training session aimed at white staffers and instructing them on undoing your own whiteness in order to be held accountable by people of color, according to documents obtained by a public records request. The session took place on June 12th as protesters took part in the so-called Capitol Hill organized protest in the Capitol Hill district. One handout distributed in the session declared how racism is not our fault, but we are responsible. Another said white staffers must give up the land and their guaranteed physical safety in order to be an accomplice for racial justice. I'll tell you where we're going, man. So the Supreme Court ruled today that the eastern half of Oklahoma is under the jurisdiction of the Muskogee Native American nation. Within reason, I can respect, right, the rights of tribal land and reservations, but this was essentially dissolved back in 1907. We're talking about 113 years ago. Most people alive, dare I say, I think like literally everybody alive in this country, or at least 99.99%, have no idea what happened. They weren't alive for that stuff. Most people in this country, the overwhelming majority, aren't even near 113 years old, let alone any of them being 113. I mean, maybe there's somebody somewhere. I don't know what the oldest person in this country is. But this is what's happening. Give up your land, they say. You're racist. It starts with Oklahoma. It starts with this jurisdiction, and it will expand. The precedent has been set, and they are demanding it. They say that empires only last a couple hundred years, and many people have speculated if we were overdue for a collapse, and maybe we are. Maybe Trump is just the remnants of the American ideology of true American liberalism. And I don't mean that in the sense of colloquial. I always clarify this. I'm not talking about liberals. I'm talking about liberalism, the true nature of the word, meaning classical liberalism or social liberalism. These are center left and center right positions that have been a guiding factor in ensuring equality under the law for everybody. Conservatives are adherents to the liberal ideology. I know many of them don't want to hear this, but it's true. I'm talking about the creation of this country, John Locke, etc., that we are a nation of, by, and for the people. Now, the word liberal has been corrupted and typically just means leftist from now, but I'm not talking about leftists. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about what this country is founded upon. It is collapsing. It is being dissolved. Maybe Trump is just a remnant of this. Perhaps it's too late. Now, I know a lot of people are saying I've been a bit pessimistic on this, but no, just hear me out. I'm not saying the world is ending or your life is over or you're going to lose your house and everything's doomed. I'm saying whatever this great American experiment was will be dramatically changed over the course of the next several years, and we will no longer have an American nation. Now, a lot of people may think that's literally the end of the world, and perhaps especially hard nationalists, especially those who support Trump. But Hillary Clinton got, she got what, 65 million, was it, votes? And Trump got like 63 point something, or, around there, or 62 point something. Maybe this idea of America first and pro-Trump and waving the flag of the founding fathers is now a minority position. Seems like it. Maybe it's not. Maybe there really is a silent majority. So let me put it this way. I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic, but when you see Seattle is doing this, where they're telling people to give up their land, when the U.S. Army has an Office of Equity and Inclusion, you can see the ideology sweeping across this nation. And it's not just this country, it's happening in Europe too. Why? I don't know. It's just an idea that people like. It's manipulative and exploitative. And maybe people really will give up their freedoms for this faith, which is taking over. You know what I find funny about all of this is that there's that song, The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the Zeitgeist film, but they talk about how before Christianity, it was the age of Aries, and you had the ram's horn, you had Judaism, and then with the age of Pisces, you had the fish, and they talk about religion being an allegory for the stars or whatever. Regardless of whether any of that's true, I often wondered if we would see, and this is like 10, 15 years ago, if we would see the rise of a new religion that would dominate our social and political structures in this new age, though we aren't actually in the age of Aquarius. But I wonder, will we ever see a rise of a new religion? And I wondered what it could be. For a while, I was thinking maybe Scientology. That was becoming prominent. That was a big deal. Maybe Mormonism. And then eventually I saw, no, it's intersectionalism. This is the new religion. It's in our military. It's in our governments. It's in our police force. It's in our big cities across the board. And it's just expanding. It's in every single major cultural institution. Every major corporate entity has an Office of Equity and Inclusion. As far as I'm concerned, that's all just religious doctrine. You're creating a chapel inside your popcorn factory when you do this. When I see that the U.S. Army has an Equity and Inclusion Office, it may as well say that they're enacting a cathedral, the office of the U.S. Christianity Cathedral. As far as I'm concerned, it's all the same thing. We have a separation of church and state. But this is something insidious and very different. And now it is in overt violation of the law, but nothing is being done about it because the law is irrelevant if the culture supports what's being done. I saw a friend of mine violate civil rights law on Facebook by posting job like a job offering for a specific race and gender, etc. And I was wondering how so many people get away with this, because it's not just this one person. I see it happening all the time. And it's because within our government, within our law enforcement, they adhere to the same ideology. So they will not enforce the law. Now we have morality policing. Now they will paint whatever message they want. Now they will tell the white people to undo their whiteness, give up their land and physical safety in the name of equity and inclusion. Faith. These are overt violations of civil rights law. You do not have a right to do these things. We banned this stuff. But here it comes. Now, what do you think happens as this escalates? What will reverse this? I'm not entirely convinced it will be reversed. You see, when it came to the religious, moral authoritarian right of my youth, that was waning. That was on the decline. This was a long-standing religion of thousands upon thousands of years, the founding of a nation upon many Christian ideals that held true for a long time, even though, yes, we had a separation of church and state. Basically, everybody in this country was Christian, and basically they still are. In fact, it's really amazing how so much of our cultural identity is tied to Christianity, and people don't even realize it. But now we have the emergence of a new religion. It's expanding. It's in every layer of government across this country. I don't mean every government, but every layer. You've got small cities, you've got local jurisdictions, and it's expanding. It's in the army. My prediction would be that this is the beginning, nowhere near the end. I do not see right now a way that you end it. There's no enforcement of the law. Too many people adhere to this religion. They're not going to just give it up. So what do I expect? I don't know, maybe a couple thousand years of ever expanding rule and government under this ideology. You are going to see it affect every layer of government. It will totally take everything. We will be a country in maybe 100 years where we literally are an intersectionalist nation. Now, they won't call it a religion. There are academics right now seeking to call this out. but they're what, a remnant? They're not. How long is that going to last? There was a letter written that I've talked about where a bunch of liberals, now panicking, wrote a letter saying cancel culture is bad. And guess what? Many of these people got canceled. They're now being attacked for it. The co-founder of Vox has committed to not engaging on Twitter. He was canceled. And they will still mock him and belittle him. Here's my prediction, for better or for worse. I see right now, regardless of whether or not Trump wins, in the next, several decades, this religion has already taken over. These people are in our colleges, they're Gen Z, they're millennial, and in the next 20, 30 years, they're going to be controlling every single major institution from economic to political to cultural, and they hold these views. So maybe not every single person in this country, but enough to where they won't be held accountable. They will overtly break the law, and nothing will be done about it. Adherents to this religion will get preferential access. They will be the majority, and they will oppress the minority. Those who don't play to their religion will be negatively impacted. And to be honest, the people who do will also be negatively impacted. They'll make you go do these weird, freaky trainings. But hey, Google gobble, one of us. What's the alternative? You can be in the minority. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I think there's one way to reverse this. The last chance. Overhaul Section 230 so that the protections remain for these companies, but they must not remove legal speech. Otherwise, what I've predicted, I believe, will come true. I will see you all tomorrow in the next segment at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out. Adios.